Bad news for rideshare drivers, specifically those at Lyft, as it appears that the Lyft team is blocking the Mystro app from running on the Lyft API. Now, this is bad news for drivers for a couple of reasons, and it's definitely bad news for the team over at Mystro. So in this video, we're gonna look at exactly what has been happening, what Lyft has been doing to block the app, how many times this has happened, how Mystro has gone in to repair the app, how this is affecting Mystro's business, and why this is bad for independent contractors, and why this is definitely not a good look for Lyft. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the Mystro app, it's a cool app that kind of allows you to set filters on your rides, and it also allows you to multi-app very easily by switching back and forth in between apps. So let's say you're doing rideshare and you're driving for both Lyft and Uber, you can easily switch between platforms, but you can also add in some food delivery. So maybe you want to have the DoorDash app open at the same time. You can easily run all three of these apps and just kind of set your criteria for what you want to be taking and just jump back in between these apps seamlessly. And it's definitely a big safety plus for drivers because a lot of drivers out there are multi-apping. A study by the rideshare guy in 2018 showed that 50% of drivers multi-app, but not everyone is using Mystro, so this can definitely be problematic out there on the road. I know from personal experience that multi-apping definitely makes you take your eyes off of the road, and you got to look out for your safety. So an app like Mystro can definitely not just make it easier to select those rides and move in between them, but it can be a whole lot safer. So I'm going to pull up an article here. It's from Fast Company, and they do a lot of great coverage of the rideshare industry. And basically what we're seeing here is that it appears that Lyft has blocked the app multiple times with API updates, making it harder to use the app. And so Mystro has responded by patching the app and kind of making fixes so that it works once again. But it's becoming a thing that's happening, multiple times. It's repeatedly happening. So it's definitely problematic for Mystro, and they have kind of come out with a statement saying that they have gone from 10,000 recurring users on the app to only 7,000. So, this is definitely taking a big hit on their business, and rideshare drivers out there, a lot of them are actually dropping the app because having to re-download every time there's a patch is becoming kind of frustrating. So here's my take on why this is really a bad move on Lyft's hand, because they've been doing a lot lately, since their inception actually, to classify drivers as independent contractors. And as independent contractors, that means that we get to decide when we're working, how we're working, what rides we're accepting, what gigs we're accepting. And Mystro is basically a facilitator of that. So it's a tool that as an independent contractor, we should definitely be allowed to use. Now, if we were full-time employees of Lyft, then obviously hopping back and forth between other companies would not be cool. I would totally understand them not wanting drivers to do this, but it's within, our own power to do this as independent contractors, to make those business decisions that work best for us in our personal business so that we can kind of maximize our earnings as drivers. And even beyond that, it's definitely a safety thing because drivers are going to multi-app, regardless of whether Mystro is able to facilitate that for them. So making it more difficult to use the Mystro app is going to put a lot of drivers in danger out there on the road. You can't stop drivers from multi-apping. You can incentivize them to stay on a platform, whether that's through streak bonuses or other types of incentives. You can definitely do that with your drivers, but they're gonna have the option to jump platform, to switch back and forth, and they're definitely gonna do that. It's really hard to keep drivers from not doing that. Personally, I've done a lot of multi-apping with food delivery, and that's one of my biggest concerns is actually the safety part of it, and not just when I'm swiping to accept orders, but remembering to switch back and forth between the apps is kind of one of those things that you always have to do while you're driving if you're trying to kind of maximize those earnings. And I usually like to open up another app and go back online when I'm about to make a delivery. So that's always a time when I'm on the road and driving, and you try and do that at stoplights, but it's not always possible. So this is definitely a huge concern here. Now it appears that Lyft is the only company currently trying to block the Mystro app. Postmates, DoorDash, and Uber have not done anything to block the API. So that's definitely a good sign that it's still usable on other platforms, and other platforms are allowing their independent contractors to utilize tools like this that help them for their businesses. So do you think Lyft is in the wrong here? There's a couple of different ways to look at it, because certain apps do limit API access to other apps if they want to pull information from them and utilize them. And Lyft actually came out with a statement updating why they are restricting their API. and they kind of claim that it could provide a bad experience to their drivers. Basically, if you were using that API and developing something that isn't in the best interest of their drivers, that it could potentially be hurtful. Now, obviously, the Mystro app is not something that's going to be detrimental towards drivers, and it's not going to really abuse the Lyft platform in any way, shape, or form. So I think Mystro should just go ahead and get some more certification and some more approval through Lyft and work this out so that they don't have issues in the future, because Lyft does have the right to restrict that API. There are other apps out there that do it and that make it difficult if you don't have a partnership with them to pull from their API. If you've used the Mystro app while driving rideshare, delivering food, whatever it may be, let me know down in the comments what your experience has been like. And if you're continuing to use the app, regardless of the fact that it's having issues on Lyft. I know it's really only on the Android platform, so if you're an iPhone user, you might not even know much about this app. But go ahead and leave a comment down below, because I love to hear about your experiences. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and make sure to subscribe for more gig economy updates.